as an adult, and I've been in associations as a member since I was a kid. So to say it's like my life is kind of sounding a bit cheesy, I guess, but it really has been the backbone of everything that I've done for a long period of time. I think it was a bit like Richard Branson's. I think, doesn't he say, like, you say yes when you're totally scared because you don't know how to do it, just say yes. So that was it. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. How much are you going to pay me? And they like told me how much I was going to pay. And this was like 1991, and they wanted to pay me like $26,000 a year and give me a car. I mean, I'm not. The problem that we solve for most is associations, big or small, sit on these knowledge repositories, right? They just sit on bodies of knowledge for that industry, for that profession. In some cases, and certainly in this country, it's like 150 years old. There's so much content that they sit on and have spent millions and millions of dollars developing, producing. Staff have, it's an incredible. And for the most part, it remains untouched. It's locked. It's either locked behind firewalls or locked in Dropbox folders, or it's just locked somewhere, and it is not actively used today to drive value. So even in the era of really powerful search, you still have to have some idea of what it is that you're looking for in order for the search to render a list of results on a page that you still have to navigate and read every word and every section, or listen to every minute of the video or the audio to get to the point where you think you've got the thing that's going to help you with that problem. The executive director came and he said, one of the challenges that we have is that when we get inquiries, email inquiries, we have 3 octogenarian members in our association who we rely on a week-on-week basis to help us craft the responses. It is so technical. These are the guys that know, and they're graying out of, and ultimately these guys just can't be sitting on their email, week in, week out at 80 plus years of age. He's like, I need to find another way. And originally they were thinking, well, we're just going to have to, try and build documentation that kind of says what they were going to say. When we showed them that it would be possible for Betty to become their consciousness forevermore, so every time these guys are writing answers, and every answer they've ever written in response to a question that's come in, and again, it's a really a big standards organization, they have trained Betty on those responses. And so these guys are looking at Betty, and they are training Betty themselves to make themselves redundant to some degree, but also to let them retire from their 50 plus years of service to this organization. But they're also doing it with the confidence that Betty is going to be able to answer exactly how they would have answered, because she's trained on their institutional knowledge. And what a great way to protect the legacy of half a century's worth of contribution to an organization, is to say, hey, and right now you could be recording people. Like, if you've got aging members that have made such a huge contribution, record them on a video podcast or whatever, and then train Betty on the transcript. And then that transcript is available to everyone who would ever have a question about that. She would use that subject matter expertise to answer those questions. And I find that incredibly kind of exciting, at that end, to actually be able to protect the knowledge, the legacy knowledge of, decades and decades of volunteer contribution to an organization, and make that available to everybody that comes after us now. Like, that's so exciting to me. Yeah. One of our customers is the Marine Retailers Association of the Americas, and they launched in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. They called theirs AIME, AIMIE, and it stands for AI in Marine Industry Education. But they have AIME, and they did something even cooler. They had their big dealer trade show not that long ago, and AIME had its own booth at the trade show, so that their dealer members could come up to the booth, to the screen, and ask AIME questions about all the knowledge that the associate, and they were kind of blown away. I love the fact that they had an AIME stand at their booth. What a great way to launch. That's awesome. It's easier to be more human now than it was before. I think it used to be very much about you go on one of these calls, you have to be super buttoned up, you've got to be professional. So you had that persona, you had to have multiple personas. I think that's gone away. I think it's allowing people to be far more human, and you're getting to know people a bit more easily. When you do professional perspective, I think one of the challenges for the association market is that unless the way decisions are made by associations to get things done changes in the era of AI, they are going to really struggle. I think that we are still using, most associations are still using 20th century processes for decision making, because that's the way we've always done it.
That's
okay.
I took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, what
without taking away from what good governance looks like in the modern day. That's incredibly important. I would never take away from that. But good governance in the era of this technology has to change.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like. All I do know is that decision-making processes have to speed up if they're going to capture the value that comes. And when they think about it from customer back, from member back, why would you wait 9 months to offer value to your members? Like, it makes no sense to me in an era when you can make instantaneous change and add value today, tomorrow, the next day. And yet we still have these decision-making cycles and processes that it's either out of risk or out of some horror story that happened some time ago. But most association execs don't have the delegated authority or are trusted enough to do the right thing on behalf of the association when they've done nothing to deserve that kind of level of mistrust, and yet it still exists. That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's easier to add value now to a profession than it's ever been before. Easier. Right. It's harder to get the decisions made to keep pace with the opportunities that offer that value, because if you put off implementing an AMS, you can wait 2 years and not much is going to change in the way that AMS works anyway, and so you can implement it and you'll be fine. But in the era of AI, what we were capable of demoing with Betty on Monday versus what we showed someone today, and in fact what we're going to be able to show someone next week after the updates that we're making this weekend, like it's different already. That's the pace of change. They have a methodology called design for delight, right? And everything comes from the customer problem statement backwards. And so, to Ben's point, like that issue of association staffers getting wound up in data mapping or migration or whatever, it's because they're worried about what that does to impact them and how they work, not the experience their members are going to have with the interaction. And as soon as you start talking to people about what does this look like from your member backwards, then you just work out how to do it at that end. It completely changes both the complexity, but also just the visibility of what's necessary and what's possible, because you're trying to add value at the member end, not just trying to make life easier. Right.
Feedback that we got from some of the members was, I go to the website, I can't find something, and then I go to Google or Wikipedia. So That's what your members are doing, right? And you certainly don't want professionals, medical professionals, to be going on Google or Wikipedia to get information that they should be able to get from your organization. And we're slowing things down by keeping some of the processes. And like we said, some governance absolutely has to stay in place, but some change management is also necessary too.
Like, you don't want medical professionals going to ChatGPT.
Right.
Because everyone go test it. Like, if you ask it 2 or 3 questions, you get to the 4th or 5th question in your line of inquiry, and that was not designed to do that.
Right.
Well, depending on how it likes, my website, what's said on it, how it's said, all that, it could pull it in. So the credibility of the source of the content really started to come to light when people started to become scared and frightened about like what is true and what is not. And they really were like, the source, credibility of the source came to the forefront pretty quickly, I think, in COVID, around a lot of industries and a lot of topics. And that is such an opportunity for associations to capitalize on the fact that they have had really great standards around what they publish and who they issued memberships and certifications to over the years.
Is what I call leaving room for serendipity. Like it's when an opportunity comes up to fix something, to enhance something, to explore something, to experiment with something in a person's role, in a full-time person, if you're big enough to do that, and in a budget somewhere, there just needs to be a bucket of money that the board and the CEO says, you know what, that is for people on our team or in our profession to come to us and say, hey, I've got this idea, here's my hypothesis, I want to test it out, and here's the reason why.
I want to thank Impaxium. Actually, they came on board as, you might say, sponsor, but our annual production partner, to really get behind the idea that we're bringing up catalyst moments and conversations to the association industry, and they felt really strongly they wanted to be supportive of that. So we want to thank Impaxium. Rob Barnes, the CEO of BettyBot, longtime friend of mine. I'm so grateful that we were able to spend this time with you today. Thank you for joining, coming, hanging out with us today.
I'm ready.